Hello, everybody. G'day, and welcome. Hello, everybody. G'day, and welcome. Hello, everybody. I got an echo. Ah, there we go. Fixed it. All right. G'day, everyone. Welcome to the Brisbane Infrastructure DevOps and User Group. We are just kicking off now. We're just going to have a little bit of chit chat while we wait for everyone to drop in, and then we'll kick it off. Alrighty. Yeah. So might as well throw a quick poll out there. Who plays Sea of Thieves? We need more shipmates. Just roll around in our sloop. And then next thing you know, we've got brigantines all around us and another sloop rocking up. I'm like, what's going on?
It's probably like you're speaking a different language to those people who don't play it.
Yeah. It was like you said, I've never seen that like number of people in a single spot, and it's just like cannonballs coming from left, right, and center. It was just absolutely crazy.
So can I share a quick question, unrelated? Are you able to share just a window now with Teams? Is that a thing?
Yeah.
Or that's still a Zoom exclusive feature?
You should be able to share a window. Yeah, you could do it before, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've always been able to share just a single window because I've got a massive monitor, so I don't want to share the whole thing because no one will be able to see anything.
Oh, maybe I'm getting confused. Maybe it's a region you couldn't do.
Maybe.
Yeah, region sounds different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm getting confused by. But no, that's good. Yeah, that's all I need.
Alrighty. Yeah, oops. Sorry, I'm just like dragging things around. Sorry, streamers. Streamers, can you hear me? I'm just going to throw a quick question up there, make sure that they can hear me. Okay. While doing that, I'm quickly making a dash for the chat, making sure that everyone can hear me. Just pop a quick message in chat if you can hear me. That would be good, thank you. And the voice is coming through clear and loud, and it's not too quiet. I did have a equalizer. Oh, not an equalizer. What's a limiter? Yep, cool beans. All right, a couple more minutes. Yeah. So this is actually, I think this is probably one of the talks that I have to. Oh, it's Haiku. G'day, Haiku. This is actually one of the talks that was really quite interesting from a lab perspective. Like, it's pretty cool. Like, so there's going to be, I want to kind of get started right now, but we're going to wait for a little bit.
Hold it.
So I'm just going to give you, before we get started, I do have a confession to make. I don't know if anybody spotted it, but the description that I wrote in Meetup was actually generated by ChatGPT.
Really?
Yep, 100% generated. I did not make any change just to see if anyone could actually see it. So...
No, I didn't realize.
Yeah. I thought you would have been like, man...
There was that. No, there was that one issue with the meeting link being wrong. So that does explain it actually.
That was me. That's human interaction. Though I'll be honest, though, the AI would probably do the same thing if I gave it a meeting link. It'd be like, oh, okay, just put this meeting link in here. And I'd be like, I don't think it would even check it. It'd just be like, yeah, good to go. But yeah, no, 100% generated by ChatGPT, because I was like, okay, let's see what we can do. And this is interesting because I was talking to Haiku about this, and we were kind of like, he was like, oh, Haiku was playing around with ChatGPT, and he's like, oh, check it out. And I was like, all right, let's see what we can do. Then last night, explain PowerShell. No, was it the prompt? Was it I'm a 3-year-old, and then the question, explain PowerShell DSC, and then I'm like. A 3-year-old girl who actually knows PowerShell. Explain PowerShell DSC. So good.
Are we going to do that part? I know it's not part of our demos, but I think it's if we get time at the end, we'll see.
We'll see if we have time at the end, we'll do it because it's really good. Like it's really good. All right, one more minute and then we'll kick it off. Are we waiting on anyone else? Got a few people on Twitch. To our esteemed Twitch viewers, if you are watching, feel free to, if you've got any questions, throw them in chat. I will be monitoring chat and I will try and answer those questions. I expect tonight's going to be a pretty interesting night. It's either going to be no questions at all. We're going to have quite an extensive discussion with lots of questions being thrown around. So this is, going to be pretty cool.
And also, if anyone has any ideas, because we're all learning this AI stuff at the same time. So if anyone has any ideas along the way, please feel free to share them as well in the chat, or just jump on the mic if you're in the meeting.
Yeah, Heiko's just like, did you invite Doug to the stream? And I'm like, no, I didn't. But I'm just going to tag him in the tweet, see if he drops in. I
did watch his talks as well. Yeah, he's actually a really good presenter. Really easy to listen to. So I was happy to watch those as well.
All right, let's kick it off. Okay, so the first thing, I didn't get ChatGPT to generate the PowerPoint, so this is all manual. So
here we go.
Yeah, here we go. This old chestnut.
Did you at least ask it to find bugs?
No, I didn't. In the PowerPoint? No, yeah, I didn't. All right, so one thing I didn't do, I actually didn't share my screen. Let me quickly do that. Share my screen, please. That one, yes, cool. All right, let's rock and roll. All right, so can everyone see that? Cool beans. I think we're good. I'm just going to quickly minimize this because also got to be able to read chat. Make sure that there's no questions. Cool. Okay, so let's kick off. So thank you everybody for, our first meetup for the year. 4 months in. So yeah, what a first interesting set of 4 months that we've had. But yes, so we're back. And welcome to the Brisbane Infrastructure and DevOps User Group. So proudly sponsored by Hudson Hudson Recruiting. So they're really great guys. If you considering on doing any specialist work, or want to have a chat with a quality recruiter, go and approach Hudson. Vic is now the go-to contact with that. Pablo is touring the world, from what I remember. He's touring the world. So yeah. So
only a little bit jealous.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The other thing I was just going to say is, great people. They, great performance, but yeah, they're really generally good people. Also, ScriptRunner. Huge shout out for ScriptRunner for paying meetup costs. ScriptRunner every year when they do their demos, I love it because ScriptRunner they are able to make the most amazing, create the best automation in a browser. If you're wanting to run any sort of, if you want to abstract away PowerShell and make it available for people who don't know PowerShell, think about ScriptRunner. You'll definitely give it a go. You won't regret it. Alrighty, next up in May, we have our esteemed guest. He is super known to everywhere around the world. He is an excellent sailboat driver and in the sloop, and he has a very passionate. He's very passionate about all things. He's passionate about all things PowerShell and cloud. Wayne. So Wayne will be presenting next month on Azure automation. So it's going to be a I'll say not necessarily a review and retrospective, but it's going to be, hey, let's see what's changed. So that's going to be really interesting.
While I'm talking about Azure automation, I should also point out that Azure automation does not even compare to what you can do on ScriptRunner. So if you want to see what Azure automation is capable of on steroids, you need to be looking at ScriptRunner. But if you want to see what's changed in Azure automation over the last couple of years, really, I'll see you next month.
Yep. Alrighty. Let's keep cracking on. So we're going to go to the main event. I was thinking about talking about a little bit about news, but honestly, I'll be honest, the last 4 months has just been a blur for me with newborn and just crazy stuff going on. So I haven't actually really been following much. So,
and also there's this whole AI thing that people are talking about. It seems to be consuming all the news.
What is that, Wayne? What is AI? I thought it was
No
like,
idea.
yeah, I have no idea. Every time I think AI, I just think of like Age of Empires 1 and its terrible pathfinding abilities. Like, it was rubbish. Anyway, no, we're going to be talking about PowerShell AI module. We're going to have a little bit of fun. So it's going to be fairly light. We're going to look at how we're going to get started, get set up. Going to basically put it to the test. Oh, well, it's not necessarily putting PowerShell AI to the test. It's going to be putting ChatGPT to the test. We're going to look at some of the limitations that you're going to see with that and some other kind of little bits and pieces with that. One of the key things as well we're going to also do is past that, we're also going to look at some other AI features outside of the PowerShell AI module. So we're going to be looking at some VS Code extensions, and they're really, really interesting as well. And I can tell you right now, this is going to be one of these ones where you're going to be working with PowerShell to get stuff done. If you're an infrastructure guy using PowerShell, you need to get stuff done, there's a tool for you. If you're a coder, if you're some sort of developer, it doesn't have to be PowerShell. It can be any language. There's something there for you as well. This is not just limited to PowerShell itself. So really, really cool. So we're just going to quickly jump into some quick definitions before we get started, because these are kind of we're going to talk some definitions a little bit. We're going to be mentioning these, in the when we're doing our demos, and you're going to kind of see some of these terms come out. So the first one I kind of want to talk about is temperature. So temperature with ChatGPT is simply put is just sets the level of creativity. So low or 0 is more factual, 1 or high is more creative. So in the PowerShell AI module, it's set to default. The second thing we want to talk about is hallucination. And this is something that really gets you. And so it's something to be aware of, because it got me a few times. So it's
very good at hallucinating, basically.
Yeah. It's really, really good at hallucinating. So an hallucination essentially is it's able to make up convincing content that doesn't exist. So the kind of definition is that in neural language processing, hallucination is often derived or defined as generated content that is nonsensical or unfaithful to the provided source content. And then the final thing which we want to talk about is prompt. And this is where we were just kind of, Wayne and I were talking about earlier, was that there's 2 types of prompt within the ChatGPT OpenAI ecosystem. So we have the AI side where we can actually set a persona. So we could set, I actually tried to set myself, but there's not enough data. So it wasn't great.
What, you tried to tell the AI it was Michael Zanata?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so you can tell the AI
cool.
to be a specific person, like whether that's a 3-year-old girl carrying a banana and is interested in washing machines, or a senior Azure architect. You can basically tell it what persona to take on, and it will structure its language accordingly, and that's pretty cool.
I actually think my AI was actually set to Michael Zanata, because I asked it to write some PowerShell before. Not good. Not. I couldn't help myself.
No, that was the unit tests.
Yeah.
The next thing is, and then you basically have the traditional prompts, and that's the question that you're asking the AI. So, for instance, explain PowerShell DSC. What's PowerShell DSC? So, and then it will, answer as that persona. So you could, we're going to have some fun with that anyway. So you're going to see some of that within the AI command as well. I've kind of got some interesting things there. So,
and this prompt thing, Michael, just quickly on that.
Yep.
It's like so important. Getting the prompts right is so important that you're starting to see people calling themselves prompt engineers. Have you seen that trend?
No.
Yeah, there's actually even job titles now with prompt engineer as the job title, and people calling themselves prompt engineers because there's such an art form in crafting the appropriate prompt to get the desired result. And I didn't actually think this was a thing. Originally I thought, oh, this is just nonsense. Like these people are talking complete garbage. And then I saw a beautifully crafted prompt that created exactly what I wanted that I couldn't manage to craft myself. Like I hadn't thought hard enough about it or tried hard enough to create a prompt that would give me the exact result I wanted. So there is actually an art form in generating these prompts. And that's why people are starting to call themselves prompt engineers.
I thought
Wouldn't be
also,
IT without some glorified titles.
Exactly.
I was also going to say, yeah, you know, they're very punctual as well, very prompt.
I think they're part of the AI ops team. That's the new ops.
Yeah.
Is AI ops? Yeah, I just made that up. It could be a real thing though. I don't know.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is that with, I'm like, well, that's something that could be very quite interesting, seeing if you can actually describe, you know, a lot simpler and then basically essentially abstract into configuration. I'm putting my infrastructure hat on now. Anyway, that all aside, let's go to the next slide. All right, so let's get started. So we're going to now jump straight into demos. Lots and lots of demos now. We're not going to jump into getting to that. So can everyone see my screen? Is it not like, I just want to make sure everyone can see my screen.
Would you mind zooming it a little bit for me?
I
We can see it, but it's just a little small for me.
Okay, that's fine. I can zoom that in. I'm just going to get rid of this off the side. Oh, I'm just going to do that. Can everyone see that? I'm just going to throw it also out to chat and make sure everyone's can see that and it's okay.
Looking good from my end. Just
Cool
copying down
beans.
that key.
Yep, cool beans, cool beans, cool beans. All right. So what we're going to be doing is, sorry, I'm just having a bit of a memory blank.
Before you do it, Michael, friendly reminder to change that key after the call. But the
dude, yeah.
You're going to start by installing the modules. Where you're going to start?
Okay, cool. Let's do. Actually, no. Yeah. Okay, we're going to install the module. So essentially, go ahead, open up your terminal as an administrator. Don't necessarily have to be an administrator. It can run as a normal user. But the idea is that we can just. I'm just going to fire up Windows PowerShell. Go ahead and install that module. Like any sort of PowerShell module installation, it's pretty straightforward. The module is available within the PowerShell gallery. So let's go ahead and have a quick look in here.
And it's actually being updated pretty frequently too. But I installed it, and then like 2 days later, there was a new version. So yeah, it's getting quite frequent updates.
Yeah, Doug's patching it quite regularly. Yep. So you can see there within the PowerShell gallery, it's made available there. And also, if you're wanting to go and you spot some sort of issue or anything, you can go to the project site, and that will take it to the GitHub. And obviously, you can go ahead and raise issues if you want to add features and things like that. You know, go ahead and fork it, do what you want to do with it, and then raise a PR to merge it all back in, because it is a community maintained PowerShell module. So go for it. All right, so once we've gone ahead and installed it, I think I've got, yep, install 6. Okay, so basically it's just been updated. So let's go ahead and update the module.
There you go. Well, I think we actually updated it just last night. So it's, the updates are frequent.
Yep. So I might just also do it on here. All right, cool. So once we've done that, we're going to need to now generate an API key. So let's go ahead and head over to our URL. I'm just going to paste this in here. If you want to follow along, go ahead and follow along. I'm just going to pop that in the, actually, oh no, you can't do that, Wayne, because you, I'm just see if I can pop this in the chat.
What's that?
Oh, I'm just popping the URL in the chat, so if people actually want to create the URL, they can.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And worth pointing out that so to generate API keys, you need to be part of the free trial where you get credit when you first sign up, or you need to add a credit card. And if you do add a credit card in there, it's much cheaper than some of the competing products. Like it's a very low cost product. I think you can actually use OpenAI, the PowerShell OpenAI module, to get your usage. I might just check my usage and report back on that.
Okay.
It's very low cost anyway.
So I'm just logging in now. You can see here I have a whole bunch of keys. So let's go ahead and create a new secret key. And actually, no, I've already got a key, but essentially you can go ahead and create a key here, give it a name, and like with any sort of API token key, you can then go ahead and copy that. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that quickly. And you can see here, here's a key. Cool, go ahead and copy that. But I've already got a key, so we don't need to worry about that. Now, what we're going to do is I've just, the way that we load our module in is we basically use import module. Actually, no, I don't even need to do that. We're running PowerShell 7. So what we're going to do is convert our string for our token into a secure string. And then we're going to use the command set open AI key. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and paste. And now we're good to go. So once that's in place, now we can actually start doing things. So the first command that we're going to talk about is the AI command. The AI command's more of just a general prompt. That's kind of how it sits in there. You can pipe with it, so it's really quite handy to be with piping. But what we're going to quickly do is we're going to go just do a quick demo. So you can see here, explain DSC as a wrap. So it's going to go off out to the internet now. It's going to have a little bit of a think about it because oh, look at that. It got it the first time. Fantastic. So we've just got a wrap for PowerShell DSC. So how cool is that? So I'm just going to quickly zoom that in. So you can see here, DSC stands for Disaster State Configuration. It's the way you maintain your system's configuration. It's a tool that can help keep your systems in check so that you can make sure it's running at its best. This is actually kind of funny though, because the one thing I was quickly going to talk about is AI's ability to learn, and this initially didn't work, and I actually wanted to demonstrate that it was actually referring to a completely different acronym. So it's smart enough to recognize what we're talking about is a technical product, and because of the constant evolution, it's actually kind of broken this demo, but that's really cool because you can see here, this is now, we can just talk natively and it knows that we're talking about DSC. We don't have to be literal. So it's pretty cool. All right, so you can see here, so basically what I did was I had a second one where I was specified a literal command where it basically said explain PowerShell DSC as a wrap. And what we can do is you can basically pipe that. So we can just go AI and we can say, for instance, convert to JSON. Let's see how we go. I'm kind of gone a bit off the rails at the moment.
I found my usage too, by the way. I've spent 18 cents so far.
Oh. I haven't got a bill, so yeah.
Oh no, but it would, you can actually there's a commandlet. You can check it live if you're interested in knowing.
Yeah.
How much you've got. You can just do get get OpenAI usage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get OpenAI usage as the commandlet.
Let's go have a look. There you go.
And then you just need to provide a there you go. You're like 6 cents today. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Cool.
And you can set a start date if you wanted to go back in time. But yeah, mine's 18 cents in total. So it's very low cost compared to other products.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right. And you can see here the capability to be able to pipe. So we can basically take a specific element, for instance, explain DSC as a wrap, and then we can actually pipe it and then convert it to JSON. So you can see here, we now have a JSON object. Don't know what the code wrapping is. I think that's basically some HTML that the module didn't clean up on the response. But you can see there, it's essentially you got a JSON object. Cool. So that's basically the AI command. Now there are some other parameters in there where we'll talk about, like we talked about the temperature. So we can just say explain DSC, and then we can just go temperature, and let's go high.
No, it's 1. 2, or I think it's 2 is the highest, or 1 is the highest. I forget. Try 2.
We'll try 2. So, and this is now telling OpenAI, this is telling ChatGPT now to be as creative as it wants to be. So we're definitely gone off the rails in terms of
following the demo. But you can see here. What the?
Wow. You can see what it is capable of doing. There's I'm stunned. Speaks to each other character, equipment, process, bundle, component, offer, oneself. Okay, that is.
Just drop that temperature down to like 1.
Yeah, let's try.
And then try back at 0 again, which is the default.
Let's try that. It got very interested. Oh, here we go. So, yep, is a feature of PowerShell enables administrators to maintain deploy configuration of software services and environment settings. Yep, it's declarative. Yep, it's configure service package files and other resources. Keep tracks of there. Yep, that's pretty. Oh, that's a nice little one on the bottom. Yeah, pretty cool. And let's go back to was it 0?
Zero should be the default. Yeah.
Yep. Let's try 0. Let's see what it does. It's probably going to be it'll be very, very factual. So yes, we're definitely gone off. We're going to probably have to hurry up now because we've really gone off the rails. Okay. So you can see the differences with the temperature, and that's something to really keep in mind. So you can see here that it's not as for instance, a good example is it's just unable to. It didn't say anything about Linux. Actually, no, it did. It did say there. Oh, there you go. All right. But you can see the differences there. All right, cool. Let's continue on. Invoke AI error helper. So again, we're going to have a little bit of fun. So let's go ahead and we're going to do write error. Never going to give you up. Never going to let you down. And then we're going to essentially use invoke AI error helper. And what this does is that it basically looks at your top error object within PowerShell. And you can see here, it'll essentially, what it will do is it's going to try and explain that error. Now, I've just given it something that is completely ludicrous, and it's going to have a bit of trouble with it. So this error is not a valid PowerShell error. It appears to be a reference to a song by Rick Astley. There's no potential for PowerShell solution for this error. So, and that's a really good example. It's like, hey, someone's being a bit silly. All right. Let's try something with a little bit more serious. So what we're going to do is we're going to use get child item, and we're going to do recurse, and we're going to set our error action to stop. Now, the reason why I want to do this, and I just realized this might not work because I need to actually open up the terminal as a non-admin because I actually want to run it as a non-admin. So what we're going to do is just do that. And that, cool. So I'll quickly zoom these in for you guys. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to run this again, and we're going to get that. We're going to get an access denied error when we run our get child item. So you can see there, access the path, it's denied. So we're not. We've got an error that's now within our error variable. So what we're going to do now is let's go ahead and call AI, and let's go and retrieve that. And you can see now. Well, I was hoping that. Yeah, cool. So this is actually really interesting because this error is completely different to what we were expecting.
Yeah.
And let's have a quick. Let's just have a quick see. No, where is it? Yeah, its error record is access denied. So this is a really good example. Is on something that is not particularly correct. But it's really, really important.
I guess you'd consider this a hallucination, wouldn't you?
Somewhat of a hallucination, yeah. It's somewhat of a hallucination, but it's just important there. Now, one of the other things which I wanted to quickly talk about is you can use the AI.
Michael, just quickly, sorry, before you go to line 45, you did actually jump over line 30 and line 31, if you don't mind having a look at those at some point. It doesn't need to be right now.
Yep. Sorry. Yep. Okay, cool. I'm just going to jump up to line 45 and then I'll go to line 31. I actually totally missed that. Sorry. No All right. So one of the other things which is really, really good is you can actually use it to explain event log errors. So I just copied this, the decom errors that we get in our event log, and I've just basically copied and pasted the message, and I'm like, explain this to me. So, and you can see here, it gives a really nice succinct description, talks about what's going on with it, a lot better than what you're going to get with the event log. So this is really a really good tool, especially to help you troubleshoot a lot of those issues. Sorry, I'm just having trouble. I'm about to have hiccups in a second. All right, so now we're going to quickly talk about the Copilot command, and the Copilot command is more of an execution based command. So what we're going to do is,
and I would say it's probably, just to jump in there, Michael. Yep. I would say it's actually one of the nicer commandlets out of the PowerShell AI module. Yeah. It feels native PowerShell and AI working together. Yeah. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment.
Yep. So we've got here, create 100 random users using names in Active Directory using PowerShell. So we can go ahead, run that, it's going to have a think about it. And one of the really cool things is that when it comes back, you can see here we've got this really, really nice piece of code. It's going to ask us, hey, do we want to run this code? Do we want to copy it? And this is one of my favorite pieces of functionality. Let's explain it. So we can just hit E.
This is actually neat too. The syntax highlighting that Doug was talking about recently is currently in there. It wasn't in there in the previous release, like literally last night. Yeah.
That's just made it. So you can see here, it's actually explained what's going on with it. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So the one thing I did wanted to point out though, is that I wanted it to actually generate 100 random users, like 100 random names. And I think I could probably say AI, generate 100 random names, and let's try that. Let's see what happens. This is one of the things I love about AI. It's so it's just so off the deep end. Okay, cool. So you can see here, we can. Oh, actually, yeah. Okay, it's just truncated the results, but we could actually.
And you can get the rest of that as well. There's a parameter you can add to the end of the AI to get the rest of it.
I think it's max tokens. Yep.
I think you can set it. What is it, like a maximum of 1,024? I think maybe. I might have that wrong. It might actually be higher than that.
But the idea is that we could then input that into JSON, and then we can suck it in there. So it's not really a big thing there, but let's go and have a look at another demo. So we can create a recursive script in PowerShell to return a list of links from a website. This was an interesting one. Again, it might fly off the handle. Let's find out. And you can see here we've got our 100 users back. That's pretty cool. It's a really fast way to generate 100 users without having to go to an API. Well, actually, technically,
that's awesome.
We're actually at an API, but we're not generating from that. We've actually got a one size fits all API. So let's go ahead and run this one. So create a recursive script in PowerShell to return a list of links from a website. So let's see how we go.
Interesting.
So now this is really interesting. I thought this was quite an interesting one because it's not using invoke REST. It's not using invoke web request. I was like, invoke REST method? No, invoke web request. It's actually using the .NET class, which I don't know. It's quite interesting.
Could you do one more thing, Michael?
Yep.
Could you ask the same question again, but say use invoke web request?
Okay. Yeah, that's literally what I was going to do.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. From a website using invoke web request. Let's see what it does now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you can see here, sometimes, and this is one of these things that sometimes you're going to have to be a little bit literal with things. So you got to, think about where, sometimes it'll come back and it'll just give you something that is technically correct. Like this will technically be correct, but there's always a better way to do it. So, you kind of got to think about that. And you then might have to amend it. And then as the AI gets updated, like we talked about in the DSC demo, I didn't need to be literal with PowerShell DSC. It just knew that I was talking about DSC. So it's one of those things, discretion is required. All right. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about all that. And now the final one we're going to talk about, the two last ones we're going to talk about is explain and enable AI shortcut keys. So what I'm going to do is just paste the string into PowerShell. Actually, I'm just going to get rid of my second terminal window. It's like so. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to type explain. And essentially what it's going to do is look at the last token. And it essentially is going to figure out what it is and then basically explain it. And you can see here, it's recognized that it's a regex expression and it's basically explaining that regex expression, which is pretty cool. So again, if you're working in PowerShell, you're trying to get stuff done. You're like, hey, I don't know what this regex is, blah, blah, blah. Now, it might not be literal. So, at the end of the day, though, it's still good to test. Copy and paste it, stick it in a regex tester, validate your logic. But it really is going to help with that. And the other thing, which is, and I kind of talk about this a little bit, is that learning the syntax around things and getting it to explain things to you is really good. Like you should be able to work with it collaboratively. So you should be able to learn stuff from it, and like it's really, really quite cool for that. So it's not just give me something and get a result. Having something explained to you is really, really good. All right, and now the final one, which command that we're going to talk about, is enable AI shortcut key. And essentially what this is just a command that we pop in to our console. And then what we can do is we can actually write a comment in PowerShell. So we're just going to say, list all the services on the computer. Now, if you're on Windows Terminal, you then have to press Control-Shift-G. If I think you're on PowerShell, it's just Shift-G. So if we go Control-Shift-G, you can see here, it then basically automatically figures out what you want and then basically generates that for you. So let's go ahead and then just go ahead and run that. Bingo. So really, really handy. Really great tool if you just need something to quickly just get it. Yeah, really, really great. So that's getting started. We've just passed the halfway point, so this is going to be, we're going to probably be a little bit late, but that's okay because it's going to get really exciting.
You've actually covered so much of what I was going to demonstrate, Michael, that I don't know, you've actually covered everything I was going to cover.
Really?
Yeah, you've covered, yeah, we can skip scenario 1.
Okay. So scenario 1, we were going to talk a little bit about bicep, but that's all right. So what we're going to do?
Yeah, I don't think you've already covered Copilot. You've already covered the max token stuff.
Yep.
You've already covered the hallucinations. Oh, the only other thing I was going to show was that you can pipe the code that it gives you back to outfile, and then allow it to actually and then use append as well to just write your PowerShell files for you.
Yep.
So that's a really lazy way of doing it. But that's probably the only thing I had to add to that.
Okay.
So feel free to move ahead, jump on into scenario 2 if you want.
All right, cool. So scenario 2, what we're going to be working with is we're going to use AI to create a local VM. So we've got our lab set up here. So create a new virtual machine with the following requirements. The name is testvm01. It's going to have 4 gigs of memory, 2 CPUs, 60 gig hard drive, and we want to mount this ISO. Now this ISO exists. All this is relevant. I have client Hyper-V installed on the machine. I ran this last night. We're going to see how it goes today. This is obviously all off unhinged. So let's go ahead and run this. So what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly go ahead and copy this. And essentially what I've got here is just get content. Just going to go and read this PS1 file, and then we're going to pipe it to AI. So we're going to just pop this in our terminal. I'm just going to go ahead and clear the screen and get rid of the first comment. And let's go ahead and give it a go. All right, so you can see here, we've created our new virtual machine. Let's go ahead and copy that. What we're going to do is we're going to paste it in here. And we, I'm really wondering if this is going to work or not. We're going to see if it's going to throw a big
one of those parameters looks, I don't know, num CPU.
I don't think that's a valid parameter.
Yeah, that looks like a hallucination to me.
Yeah, I think that's a hallucination. So we're going to see what happens anyway. So let's go ahead and run it. So what we're going to do
the rest doesn't look too bad.
Yep. We'll see. Let's go ahead. All right. Ready, set, go. All right, there you go. Num CPU. All right, but that's okay. But because at the end of the day, though, we've already got half the stuff there, so we can literally finish this off. So what's that CPU? Where is it? Switch name for. Hang on, let me just import module. ModULE. Let's see if we can figure it out. I think it's. Let's just quickly go.
You can probably leave it. It'll just use a default or prompt for it.
Boot device, memory stuff. Path version, force. Yeah, it probably will use the prompt. Yeah, but you got like memory startup bytes. Yep. Boot device. I think it's actually. I can't remember the. Yeah. But you guys get the gist. All right, cool.
Well, see, the problem might be it might have made it up because there is no.
Yeah, there is no parameter.
It might have to use set VM and it's like confused, or set VM processor or something like that. Yeah.
All right, so obviously that's not going to work on mic on a non-admin session. So let's go ahead and create it. So what we're going to do is go ahead and create that, and then we're going to go ahead and run our second command. Okay, cool. All right, so let's go ahead and fire up Hyper-V. Let's go have a look at it. Let me just make sure everything else is off. Yep, cool. All right, cool. There's our VM. So what we're going to do is have a quick look inside of it. 4 gig of memory. That's fine. You can see the DVD drive is set, which is really cool. Inspect. Just going to set. Yep, 60 gig hard drive, and obviously the processor's not correct. So now let's get it to write some unit tests for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to get it to read the same script, and we're going to say, hey, write some pester unit tests. So let's go ahead and do that.
Everyone loves writing unit tests. So,
oh my gosh, yes.
They're going to be so disappointed that AI is going to take their job.
So we're going to now get it to write some unit tests for us, and we're going to go ahead and paste that, and we're going to go and validate it. All right, so let's go have a look at this test. So we're going to go ahead and paste that in here, and let's go and have a look. So we can see here we've got get VM, test VM1, memory startup bytes should be 4 gig. Now this is really, really interesting because I actually totally forgot. I actually ran, I had it generate unit tests, and it was generating unit tests, and its assertions were from a different module. So it wasn't using the pester assertions where you pipe to should. It was actually using the methods like a traditional, X unit test, or your standard .NET test. Very, very interesting. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. So yeah, very, very interesting. It just made a decision. It's like, you need to install this module. And I was like, I didn't even know that module exists. That's really cool. So, all right. Or I could have been hallucinating, and I actually didn't fact check it. So there you go.
Yeah.
So you can see here, it's describing the test VM1. It has 4 gig of memory, number of CPUs, size. So let's go ahead and run that, see what happens. I'm probably
num CPU makes its return there. We can see num CPU.
We can see, we can see num CPU. And you can see these, so it's kind of hallucinating a little bit there. So let's go ahead and call it. I'm just using invoke pester. And then we go. So you can see here, and this is actually some very, very interesting observations, is that it's writing unit tests pre-version 5. It's writing version, 4 or 3. So these actually need to have hyphens. You actually are supposed to use hyphens. So it's a couple of very. Did
you want to add the hyphens? Yep, Unless you're going to do that next, but if you want to add the hyphens in just to see how many of the tests are actually valid.
Yeah. We're going to be doing that. Yep.
Sorry.
All right.
I can jump on the gun.
You just like jump on the gun. I'm like, yeah, I love it though, because it's good. Because it's like we're like this is like this is an off the rails talk, and I love it so much. All right, let's go ahead and run it again. All right, cool. We've got 1 test pass. So has 4 gig of memory, expected this amount, but we got null, so that's not great. But obviously CPUs, we expected 2, but that wasn't going to happen. And then we got a 60 gig hard drive, and you can see here it's having trouble getting these. And so what I decided to do is I actually wrote the tests that. These are unit tests that I wrote. I got ChatGPT to fill in the documentation. So let's go ahead and rerun this. I'm just going to go ahead and copy that, paste that in here, and let's hope my unit tests work. Last time it worked last night. Just quick up. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to quickly check for questions. Okay, cool. So yeah, there you go. 4 tests pass, and the final test that didn't pass was the processor, because that wasn't set up correctly, but that's okay. And so this is actually something like we're talking about hallucinations, is that, for instance, with the hard drive. So if we compare these two, you can see here, it's get VM hard disk drive, which technically exists, but the thing is, get VM hard disk drive doesn't actually, it gets the hard disk drive, but it doesn't get the details about the VHD file. So you can see here, I've piped it to get VHD, and then under the size property, you can then ascertain what maximum size it is. So that's a really, really good one there. The DVD drive, that's pretty rock solid, to be honest. I was actually pretty impressed with that one. It actually knew that command. The other things like memory startup bytes, that failed. What was that one? Memory startup bytes, virtual disk. It should have 4 gig of memory. Yeah, get VM memory, and then using the startup property. So, like I said, the hallucinations can be quite strong. So it's really, really important to make sure that it's really good to get your tests written, but it's not something to be relied upon. You can obviously tweak that and you can work with that. Now, the other thing which I was going to say, and this is something really, really cool, and I think, I thought about this last night, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever, is this kind of code ability where we can generate unit tests is really good for your legacy code. So if you've got all those old scripts that you just don't have time to write unit tests, this is the first step that you can chuck in there and start getting those tests generated in a cohesive format. And then you can refactor that. So you're not just starting from scratch, you're basically starting from, probably step 2. And then you can start refactoring code. And that makes it a lot easier, especially from a PowerShell perspective, to be able to, get your code tested and make sure, so let's go to scenario 3. All right, so scenario 3, this is going to be stepping more into the PowerShell side of things. We're going to be using PowerShellAI to write PowerShell. So what I kind of sat down and I had a bit of a think about what did I want to write? And recently I've been working with file encoding, and file encoding is a bit of an interesting one because I learnt a lot about the different file encoding types and learnt a little bit about how PowerShell handles file encoding. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing with ChatGPT. So you can see here, our text is going to be, we're going to write a PowerShell function called convert to UTF-32 array to convert a string into a UTF-32 array. So we're going to take a string of text and we're going to turn it into a UTF-32 array. It's very, very simple. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead here, we're going to go ahead and copy this code, and we're going to go paste it in here. So let's go ahead and clear the screen, go ahead and hit that. So while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to quickly jump into here and we're going to have a quick look at what pops out. So you can see here, we've got our function that it's returned. Let's go ahead and paste it in here. And you can see here, it's convert to UTF-32 array. And that looks pretty straightforward. Essentially we're going to be using the system.text.encoding, UTF-32, get bytes, import string. One interesting thing is that it did put a hash over the function. So that was quite interesting, but that's okay. We can fix that up. And what we're going to do is we're going to get it to now generate some unit tests. So let's go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to write some unit tests. And the reason why I want to do it this way is because I kind of just want to show you what's going to happen if we start going a little bit down the garden path and we're relying on code. So let's go ahead and copy that path. Let's go ahead and clear this, and we're just going to go ahead and paste that in. Oops, we're going to go, where did I put that? Let's do that. So now we're going to get it to write some unit tests for us as well. And remember, what's the big, I'm just going to quickly throw it out there. What's the rule for writing unit tests? What's the golden rule?
Skip them.
Should be simple and they should be maintainable.
Oh, okay.
And one of the key things, this is a very, very good unit test. You can see here it's quite a good unit test. But I'm going to quickly throw it out there. Is it complete? Is it complete? What is, I was going to throw it out to the audience. What does the audience think? Is it complete?
Can't say anything's really complete. There's always stuff that you can add on, but
Yep.
I don't know. I usually avoid unit tests as much as I can if possible.
That's what I was saying.
Yep.
Integration tests are so much better.
All
So,
right.
maybe are you thinking maybe it's missing some extra scenarios, Michael?
Yes, it's missing some extra scenarios. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So this, if we go ahead and run this, so we're just going to drop this as a function and we're going to go ahead and run our test. We can see it failed both tests. Obviously, the reason why is PowerShell 5. So let's go ahead and quickly fix that. So we're just going to throw, should be, just quickly going through. Yep. Okay, let's go ahead and try that again. Let's go ahead and run our tests. Input string. Okay, so commandlet, what's this on? I'm just going to quickly pass through. Okay, we've got two pass with an input string. And that's not good. I'm just looking at this because what's it? It's a parameter. Okay, yep, parameter's input string, but we did get prompted. Interesting. So, what we quickly done, you can already see my example. So what we're going to do is just go 1, 2, 3. You can see here, it's returning UTF-32 bytes. Cool. So what we're going to do is now we're going to actually change it up a little bit. We're going to actually give it something that is a little bit extended. And you can see here, it's still returning those bytes. That's perfectly fine. Looks fine. But now if we try to throw that in our unit test, it's going to fail. It's technically not correct. So what I've done, I'm just going to quickly show you my solution. And the reason, so essentially let's go ahead and run this code. And let's go ahead, shouldn't have done that, and if we go ahead and return that, we actually are getting the integers rather than the byte array. And that's really what I wanted. I didn't want the byte array, I wanted the integers. Now, is that something because I didn't specify, enough detail within the prompt? Possibly. So these are questions that you have to think about when you're generating code. When it comes to testing that code, essentially it's just a parameterized test that we're running through there. One of the fun things is that we actually have to use characters. You can't actually statically pass strings into that because PowerShell doesn't handle it very well. Jordan probably will be able to explain that a little bit more. But that's basically scenario 3. I just kind of wanted to show you the different scenario in different demos and kind of showing that you need, sometimes it's really important to be literal. Sometimes you can be figurative. It's just, it's how it is. So finally, we're going to go to scenario 4. And I think this is something that I really got quite excited about. We're going to be demoing our alternatives. So
here we go.
We're talking a little bit about GitHub Copilot, and we're going to look at about some of what extensions are available in VS Code to write code with AI. So I think the first scenario, so we're going to quickly generate, we're going to use, we're going to be using Genie AI. I'm going to be using also GitHub Copilot to write some code. So let's go ahead and do that. So Genie AI, we're going to quickly jump over to our extensions. You can just go ahead and search ChatGPT. And where is it? Just going to quickly. Where is it?
Yeah, where is it? It's got like a very distinct icon.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It's got a genie. I'm just going to search Genie AI. Here we go.
There it is.
Yep, ChatGPT Genie AI. So this is the ChatGPT Genie AI extension. It is one word, awesome. Absolutely awesome. Really, really good for use for generating code with for generating scripts and PowerShell code within VS Code natively. It's the learning curve is super, super easy. You can see here it's added an extension in here. You can basically ask it questions. So you basically get that chat window natively within VS Code, but that's not what's powerful about it. The key thing that it can do, let me just go ahead and close all this down, go ahead and open up Lab 4, is its right-click ability. So you can see here now, we have all these capabilities. We can basically tell it, go ahead and write me unit tests. We can tell it to analyze code, to find bugs. So let's go ahead and find some bugs. So you can see here, we've just basically selected that, and now it's going to come back. And you can see, oh, there's no syntax errors. Cool. Yep. All right, cool. Analyze code for errors. Okay, cool. So let's give it an error. Let's put something in here. And let's misspell some stuff, because I love it when we misspell stuff. And we're just going to give it a double N. And let's get it to reanalyze this code. So let's go ahead and find bugs. You can see on the right-hand side, it's having a bit of a think, and now we got our response. Find problems with the following code. Okay, so there's a syntax error after the do loop. You can see there, doesn't know anything, pleased to be a mistake, it should be removed, blah, blah, blah. That's, and you can see here, it's also identified a misspelling. So I was like, okay, that's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we can actually even go further than that. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically say, let's go ahead and optimize. Let's optimize the following code. And you see here, it's basically saying, okay, we can do this, correct the typo and write debug. Okay, here's an optimized version. And basically it's going to throw it in there. Now I'm just going to wait for it to come back, and I'm just hoping that they haven't pushed an update or something that's going to...
It'll come. Still writing.
Still writing, still thinking. Okay, cool. And then you see immediately once it's finished, we can now inject that code straight in. So I could just go insert, bang, done. How cool is that? And now it's even documented. It's documented it for me.
What did it say right at the bottom of their response there, Michael? It said, I've added something for you right at the bottom there.
So I've added a comment at the top of the function explaining what it does, formatted the function code to make it more readable, and corrected the typo in the right debug statement. Additionally, I removed the unnecessary and confusing line that simplified the contained random text. Just wow. Like, wow. Like,
thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Like, you just, yeah. And this is the really powerful thing about this extension. Like, it blows my mind. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell it now to write unit tests for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and click add tests. No, I'm not going to do it that way. So there's another way we can do it. We can go ahead and right click and add test here. So you can see here, it's going to say, yep. I think this is the one that's going to write the custom test. So you can see here, now it's writing our unit tests. So again, we can just inject that straight in. Let's just wait for it to come down to the bottom. Does anybody have any questions while we're waiting?
What's your Visual Studio Code theme?
This is 1984. Yep, and then I made a slight change to the.
I like the colors.
Comment. Yeah, I find it's really easy on the eye. I kind of just copied off Chrissy, so kudos to her. So you can see here, basically, again, it explains what's going on. We can inject it. We can do comparisons, that kind of thing. Fantastic. Awesome. But we could also tell it to finish. So let's go ahead and right click. Let's just go ahead and click complete code. Let's see what happens.
I've needed this so much. Just can you please complete? I need to make coffee.
Yeah.
Complete the code for me.
Just do it for me, and then I'll come back and fix it up.
Yeah.
And so you can see here, it's now written a different set of unit tests. It's very, very interesting. So you can see in the first test case, we can verify that the function successfully returns the output of the try block when it succeeds on the first attempt. In the second test case, we're creating a failing try block that will throw an error and set the retry limit to 3. Then we will assert that the function throws an error as it expected. And in the third test case, we're going to create a failing try block that will throw an error twice before succeeding on the third attempt. How good is that?
It's great.
So good. So good. So let's go ahead and insert that. And you can see here, that's how we've got we've structured our test. Genuinely blown away. Even now, I'm just blown away about how awesome it is. So let's go to lab 3. Let's write some documentation because about time. I'm too lazy to it. No, actually, no, I'm not. I kind of do enjoy writing documentation, but I misspell everything, so I have to.
Oh, did you say add comments? Did you?
No, I
what you
said.
selected then?
Oh, I think did I say add comments?
Yeah, I think you said
I
add
said
comments.
add comments. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, that's what it really was going to be. But let's quickly go back to lab 1, and we'll just use try here. So let's go ahead and highlight it, and let's go ahead and add comments. So it's going to now have another think. The other thing which is quite interesting is noticing the mandatory implicit. So it's not mandatory equals true. It already knows that mandatory is implicitly true. Pretty cool.
I also like that it's putting a space after the hash symbol, which I prefer when I write my PowerShell comments. Not everyone does, but I prefer it.
You could probably say when you write the comment, do it this way. But
100%. Yeah,
so
you could. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and insert that. Like, how good is that? So now we've got this completely documented piece of code. Again, please read over it. Make sure that it's okay. So I'm just going to quickly read over this. Try executing the try script block. Yep. If it succeeds, exit the loop. If the try script block fails, execute the catch. Yep. Increment the counter by 1. Yep, that's correct. Exit the loop once the limit tries. If the retry limit is reached, write an error message. Yep. And then write a debug message indicating what's been returned from the function. Yep. Cool. How cool is that? All right.
It's great.
Final lab, Git Copilot. So this is going to be a slight change. I've already set up Git Copilot. It does cost money. You basically have to add the extension, and then basically go through the rigmarole of signing in, things like that. This is just GitHub Copilot. This is not GitHub Copilot X. The beta version is just night and day better, but it's still pretty cool. So
what is it, like $10 a month per person or something like that?
Yeah, I think it's like
something
$10 a month. Yeah, it's quite cheap.
And if you're like a university student, you can get it for free. Just another heads up if anyone is a uni student. Yeah. Or works in education as well.
Yeah, if you work in education. So BW, just go ahead and create a whole bunch of accounts for us. And
we all work with you. Thank you.
Yeah, we all work with you. But if you want to you work in those areas, definitely take advantage of it. It's really, really cool. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to go ahead and start writing code. So you can see here, it's already wanting to pre-fill stuff. So we're just going to go start drawing, bitmap. Actually, let's see if I can actually get this to finish. And you can see here, it's auto-completed it for us. So let's go ahead and you can, so there's two things we can do. We can hit the right arrow and it literally will finish this line, or we can use control and that basically will finish each word.
Is that control right arrow?
Yeah, control right arrow. Yep. So you can see here, and what we're going to do is I'm just going to hit right arrow to finish this up. Actually, no, sorry, tab, not right arrow, tab. And now we can see here, so I'm just going to go bitmap, and we're just going to go get pixel. And you can see here, it's already like, hey, this is probably what you want to do. And then I'm going to say, I want to close this. There you go. We can then set the pixel. So you can see what it's trying to do. So I've just hit tab again to be able to actually auto-complete your code. So GitHub Copilot is really good for helping you auto-complete your code, getting stuff over the line very, very quickly. Like you can see.
Michael, what's line 6 actually doing? Because have you got a tool that could explain that to me?
Okay, yeah, we can explain that. So one of the key things, and this is just GitHub Copilot. So GitHub Copilot X, which is the beta version, you can literally write, similar thing to, similar to what we would have there, where you essentially can write a description of something and it will auto-complete it. So, and you can see in here, we also have, different kinds of things. So you can see there, all right, let's go ahead and save that. Cool. We just created a thing, we changed the pixel value, and now we can save the file. So we're just getting to explain the code, and you can see here, it's gone ahead and explained that code for us. How cool is that? So that concludes all the demos, and surprisingly, we're on time.
See, teamwork.
Makes the dream work. Alrighty, so Conclusions. I think this is actually one of these very interesting things. And I was talking with you, Wayne, about last night, and I also had a bit of a think about AI. The first thing is that it's there to make your job easier. I really enjoyed using Genie AI and PowerShell AI to get stuff done. It made my life easier. It just even writing the demos was just it's just so much more efficient. You're so much more effective. The other thing which I found was hallucinations. And sometimes you're going to need to be literal, sometimes you don't need to be literal. And within hallucinations, sometimes you need to make sure that what you're writing is correct. So make sure that that's paired with, appropriate tests, things like that, to ensure that, that's correct. Because at the end of the day, though, like any sort of neural network, it's going to get stuff wrong. It's going to get smarter and smarter. That's a fact. But at the same time, though, it doesn't know what it doesn't know. And when it does know something, then it will know it. So things like that, I think that's really important. Wayne, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, so I'll share an embarrassing story with everyone. So I wrote a little bit of Terraform, and I could not get it to work. Like I have no idea. Terraform is throwing me back an error. I'm like, I don't understand what this error even is about. And then I just gave up on it. Came back the next day, thought, I might try the AI. I might try ChatGPT and see what it does. And I'd done this silly thing where I'd set the resource group to the location. That was literally it. That's all I'd done. But Terraform was throwing me back an error code that had nothing to do with that. And the ChatGPT, because it wasn't my eyes, immediately found the error. So that's where it's like, there's a lot of us that are working remote these days, and you don't often have that second set of eyes. And that's what ChatGPT is really good at doing, is being that second set of eyes.
That's a really good story. Yeah.
And I'm terrible, apparently.
Well, I actually use it for explaining stuff. I'm like, I can't be bothered trying to search through Stack Overflow. I'm like, can you try and explain this specific thing? And it just smashes it out.
Yeah.
I do recommend don't ask ChatGPT to do your meal plan, because it was pretty boring. Amy actually did it, my wife, and it was pretty boring. So don't recommend that. But at the same time, I'm gluten free. But yeah. So, but at the end of the day, though, it's really, really good. It's just as a good companion, just to have someone there to be able to kind of eyeball, but bounce off of, get kind of generate ideas, things like that. It's really, really, really handy to have.
You'll have to use your calculator analogy, Michael.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good analogy. Was that essentially, and I kind of throw this one out there because I think it's a really, I think it kind of holds a lot of merit, is that when we went through school, obviously we didn't just get handed a calculator. We still needed to know how to perform basic math, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, square roots, so on and so forth. That is going to be the same. I think that essentially what's going to happen is that you will still need to know how to program, but this is going to be the calculator that the equivalent for that. But it's also going to be in a lot of different areas as well. So it's just going to be this really awesome calculator, very powerful calculator. It's, it makes a calculator look like a pocket watch in comparison in terms of its complexity. But I think that that's how I kind of see it. Use it as a tool, use it as a learning resource, and make sure that you fact check those hallucinations.
Yeah, that's the thing. So we all learned maths in school, so we could easily go and grab a piece of paper and start working out a sum, and we could get there. But if we just use the calculator, we're going to get the same result. We'll know whether it's right or wrong just by eyeballing it, and we'll get there faster. And that's how we should be thinking about using AI. Is to just get to the end result faster, not about replacing our skill set. We still want our skill set because we need someone to eyeball it to make sure it's accurate, and also interpret human communication into a prompt that the AI can actually understand.
Yeah.
So definitely not going to replace us. Just make us more efficient.
Yep. All right. Now the final slide is, what's your thoughts? We're going to throw it out there now. So Twitch chat, questions. If you guys got questions or anything, feel free to throw them up. But also, let's have a quick discussion. We'll give it we'll give it 5-10 minutes, depending on how long it goes. And Cool. I'm just going to quickly end the show and let's start the discussion. I'm just going to also, so if you've got questions as well, feel free to throw them in chat.
I just had a little look at the Bing ChatGTP interface.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys have seen that as well.
Yep.
I put in those generate pester tests and actually came up with pester 5 syntax. So it was interesting to see that there. I'm just wondering whether that's probably more due to the fact that it's using GPT-4 rather than GPT 3.5, which is what a lot of people are using on the free version.
It could be. It could also be. I'm not being literal enough.
You actually should be using GPT-4 as well, Michael. You can check that. There's a parameter to set which which engine. Yeah.
Yep.
Agent, whatever they call them. Yeah.
So BW basically said, my thought is some people at work will be finding themselves with less work and should worry about finding will find themselves with less work and should worry about finding a new job. All right. And Jordan actually also made a comment there with new version of GitHub Copilot, and that's exactly right. Yeah, Copilot X. Yep, and Jordan's jumped off. So, yep. See you later, Jordan. Have a good one. And BW has also asked, does this need a subscription? Yeah, what's Copilot X? Okay, so, yep, Jordan's just answered that. Just kind of going through the chat. Again, Twitch chat, if you've got any questions, please throw them in there. Yep, I'm definitely here to kind of answer something. Unit test should be test internal.
Everyone's done a great job of answering everything. That's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm looking at the chat history. This is really good.
Are you finding this AI stuff is making you? Are you using this AI stuff in your space at all, Matt? Are you finding it's interesting or valuable there yet?
Well, I kind of agree with what Michael said. It's kind of, to me, it's kind of like replacing Google search. Whereas before you might be searching stuff on Google and then you got to go through and look through different links. Whereas now it's essentially packaging up, hopefully, or something that's close to the right answer for you. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. And it'd be interesting to see, though, what it does happen in the future with some of the new stuff coming out. Like I do believe you can now write plugins for ChatGTP, which is where it kind of can branch out into perhaps your own data, and it can look into that. So, and I think there's, I don't know about you guys, but nearly every second tweet I see is someone saying like, you're using ChatGTP wrong. Follow me for my newsletter so I can teach you how to use it properly. I mean,
it's the new Bitcoin.
Yeah, definitely. It's certainly one thing to watch though, and be interesting to see the implications over time about, especially how powerful it may or may not get, and the flow-on effect from that as well. So,
I think it's
and we didn't mention it. We didn't mention it tonight, but you can actually use private data with OpenAI with the PowerShellAI module. We didn't explore it tonight, but it is possible. If you're interested in doing that, you can set the engine to OpenAI, I think, on Azure or something like that.
Well, I think that's probably going to be the next big leap because at the moment now where you're just giving it generic commands, and in future where if it has the context of your whole solution, it can possibly recommend optimizations or improvements to your actual code in the context of what specifically you're working on rather than saying generically.
Yep.
It's actually kind of interesting because one of the things that who here's seen the TV show Silicon Valley?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I've probably heard more from you than I have from the actual show.
Yeah. So right at the very, very end, they're doing this live demonstration. So essentially, they've had this, they've developed this AI to kind of work on solving tickets and optimizing bits and pieces of code. And then they go to release the solution and it's just failing miserably live. And so people are not able to go into toilets. Like it's this whole ecosystem of connectivity. And they're out in the middle of deserts, like a kind of Burning Man scenario. And it's kind of interesting because what happened was at the very end was literally they put the AI in charge of their soft code base. And the AI literally went through their entire code base and optimized the entire engine. And everything, it fixed everything, and they were like, this is amazing. Like, it literally now the AI is doing everything. Like, it's done. But then they found out, and again, this is kind of a little bit over the. I think it's a kind of a bit of a segue out, especially with kind of the level of compute power that's required. But essentially, it started. It was optimizing so efficiently that what was happening was it was opening up encrypted messages and then optimizing the context within the message. So it wasn't optimizing the packet; it was optimizing the payload. And so then they realized that they were blowing out, they were destroying all privacy over the internet, and they actually had to kill it. And great, like like it's spoilers. I should have said spoilers beforehand. Whoops. But like it's a really, really like it's. I don't think it's going to go that far, but I do think that we are going to get to the point where AI is just going to be, you're going to give it a system and you're like, hey, if it's a black box system, just optimize it, maintain it, make sure that it's running. There's probably going to still be some human input with that, but I do think that that's where we are going in terms of the evolution. And it's just so funny because, obviously these kinds of disruptions have come out of left field. I wouldn't say it's we've known about them, but, the power of what we can see nowadays in terms of how we do automation is just awesome. Like, I'm sitting here going, man, my job is so much easier now. Like, well, it's actually not, because where I work, it won't have it in for a while. It's just from a software development point of view, from a infrastructure point of view, from a systems administration point of view, it's just easier, and that's awesome. So, yeah. Alrighty. Anyone else have any questions? Any comments, queries? And then if not, we might wrap this up. Just quickly throw it out to Twitch. Any questions, comments, queries? All right. I think we'll leave it there for tonight. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I hope you had an awesome time. I hope it was a really, really good presentation. I actually had a lot of fun presenting this. This was one of the most off-the-rails presentations I've ever done. Like, we've kind of had half of it were like we had this pre-planned demo, and then we're like, oh, let's just do this and see what happens, because, why not? And so it was great. I really enjoyed it. Definitely off the rails, but I loved it. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll be back next month. Wayne will be talking about Azure automation, what's changed, new things. And I hope to see you then. And anyway, take care and see you next month. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks, guys.